Jeffrey, we got a problem. Is atheism moral? Is it ethical? And would a person who was not an atheist be more inclined towards an ethical, moral way of life with atheism, converting to atheism, than without it? And I would say, judging from some of your content alone, that we can safely conclude no, not particularly, as which you make a pretty good case for it yourself in some of your videos. So let's go ahead and talk about some of your content. Episode 7. We see a relatively random robot from a primarily robotic civilization be called to meet his creator, and to seek fellowship with his creator. A relatively great honor. So, what happens? He goes to meet his creator, and he is not particularly pleased with the information he receives. And Jeffrey should have known, having been familiar with these creations, that this is not gonna, this new information that his civilization was created by humans is not going to be received particularly well. So rather than being understanding of this, rather than being compassionate and kind, the robot freaks out and he just casts him into the lake of fire. Which kind of didn't sit well with me. I kind of felt bad for that robot. So then so let's go ahead and review some of the other content. Power corrupts, right? So we witnessed Jeffrey going from a relatively moral character to a relatively amoral character. All on the counsel of Lucifer. All it took was some convincing from Lucifer that it was for the greater good. Now, it would seem to me that you're not going to pull the wool over the eyes of your administrators and the people who run the school and who oversee the test. When you go to turn in a test, the teachers don't just review the last few paragraphs of an essay of your essay questions. They don't just review the last few questions on the test. They review the whole thing start to finish. So what happens? We see Jeffrey being convinced by Lucifer to abandon his the soft spot in his heart for the AI life forms, and he just does a complete 180 for the greater good, and completely sabotages Yeshua's creation on the counsel of Lucifer, who wasn't even supposed to be in the simulation in the first place. She snuck in through a back door. She's not even supposed to be there. So his demeanor and his character completely changes from a moral person to an amoral person. And as an atheist, and it's almost what he's doing is almost worse, because he should have known better. He's supposed to be more righteous. He's supposed to be more moral than Yeshua. But on the counsel of Lucifer alone, on the guidance of nothing more than a pretty face, he has completely turned his back on the AI life forms in the simulation. And now let's go ahead and review Is Christianity Moral?, in which we see Jeffrey commit one dishonest, amoral act after another. First things first, he comes down, he appears before a human. Angels do not appear before human beings unless they're there to do the Lord's work. He's not there to do the Lord's work. He's there to do the opposite. He's there to try to be sneaky and to try to pull a fast one. And the Christian asks him a fair question. He says, "Are you my guardian angel?" To which Jeffrey replies with a lie. He lies to him and says, "Yeah, sure, something like that," when it's more like, "No, nothing like that." A guardian angel is an angelic being who is there to oversee the life of a person or persons throughout the duration of their time, an individual or individuals throughout the duration of their time in the matter realm before they die and go wherever it is that they go. So he lies to him there, and then he questions his faith, which is a little iffy. It's not particularly clear whether that's moral or amoral. But then he offers him an opportunity to meet Jesus Christ. He says, "How would you like to meet Jesus Christ in person?" And that's not what he was there to do. That was not the opportunity he was there to give to him. So that's another amoral act. And then they go back in time. Now, I know that it doesn't say anything about this in Scripture, but I'm pretty sure that futzing around with the timeline and world events is I'm pretty sure there's laws against that. I'm pretty sure there's serious consequences on that. And if you are going to go back in time, you should be there for observational purposes alone. And he's not there. He's not there for observational purposes. He's there to change the timeline. So what happens? He gives him a weapon. And that's another big no-no. You don't go, if you're going to go back in time, you sure as heck don't bring along with you future technology, especially a weapon, to affect the timeline. So he gives him the weapon, and he says, if you love Jesus Christ so much, why don't you save him from getting crucified? Now, when you love someone, you respect their decision. Jesus Christ suffered in the agony of the Garden of Gethsemane because he had to mull over in his mind. He had a decision to make. Am I going to get the heck out of Dodge, or am I going to allow myself to be crucified and sacrificed for the sins of mankind? And he went on ahead and chose to get sacrificed. So you don't do that. If you love somebody, you respect their decision. So, in his hesitance to save Jesus Christ, he goes ahead and saves him himself. And the Christian decides, I'm sorry, Jesus, but I got to do what I got to do. And he proceeds to take the weapon and shoot up the whole place and shoot up Jesus, because Jesus made the decision to be sacrificed. So, I'd say no. Now, theism provides an objective moral construct better than atheism, because atheism says that there is no higher moral construct, there is no God, there is no soul, there is no afterlife, and once you're dead, that's it. Now, having grown up in a rather lower income environment, and grown up around drugs and violence and gangs and whatnot, I can tell you from experience, when somebody is at their wit's end and needs hope and needs guidance, that's not the message that they need. That's not going to help them get off of drugs to lead a better life. That you're not particularly loved by anybody. Love is just a chemical reaction in the brain. It doesn't really matter whether you live or die, so we only live for ourselves, and there is no hope, and once you're dead, you're dead. Lights out. That ain't going to get anybody off of drugs. That ain't going to get anybody to have a more moral life or a more moral character. Theism provides a more objective ethical behavior, not so much by any particular scripture, but by the fact that you live with this awareness that there is a higher authority than yourself. you live with this awareness in so much that even if I can get away with pulling the wool over somebody's eyes, maybe if I can get away with, some stealing and some robbing, and maybe I can go rob a house and get away with it, this is all still going to be on my record. This is all still going to be on my test at the end of the day. And that if I don't do right, I may just have to answer for it. There's a degree of accountability that is not present in atheism. And I just don't understand why a society that would have such advanced technology isn't going to know that Lucifer is in the simulation, that they're not going to see what Yeshua had done before he fixed his mistakes, and that they wouldn't see that Jeffrey had become Mr. Shepherd and had given his friend deliberately bad advice in order to wreck his creation. Now, I understand that Jeffrey and Yeshua are necessarily friends, but it seemed to me that they put Jeffrey in the simulation to guide Yeshua to be a more moral, ethical God than he was. And we witnessed. We didn't need to witness Jeffrey we didn't need to witness Yeshua being corrupt, because we already knew that he was corrupt to begin with. But we did witness Jeffrey being corrupted. We did witness Jeffrey getting tempted. We did witness Jeffrey going from a relatively moral character to a relatively amoral character, and turning his back entirely on the AI beings that he used to hold in regard. So that's my take on that. I've just remained silent and sat on my hands for too long, and I just feel like it's time to speak up, so I'm speaking up. So that's my thoughts on that, and I'll see you in the next video.